Hi y'all and good morning. I know this is a long, complicated story, and my lighting sucks. but I told you guys before how the Millbrook Police Department in Shalerstown concocted a story. They said that a white van had picked up me and the children. This is very prominent because Shalerstown and another Indian man was parked outside of my house in Bath, New York, when they found out where I was living, um, in a white van. One thing I know for facts with Shalish Tana is that 9 times out of 10, when he says that you're doing something, he's the one doing it. It's been proven in my relationship over and over again, different instances where he has blamed me for doing XYZ when he's really the culprit of doing XYZ. I knew going through the abuse that when I was blamed for something, to look for something to happen because he has done something. I do believe that he has ties to human trafficking or human traffickers, and he is testing the waters and grooming my children before he actually makes a move on getting rid of my children. He never was a parent in the home before I left. He was never home with the children. He never spent time with the children, even though I begged and pleaded for him to do so. He wants the children to hurt me. His goal in having the children, and I feel that he wants the children for other ugly reasons, not because he wants to be a father, not because he loves his children dearly. Like I said, he was never in the home. He never spent time with them before. This is not the first time, and it was not the first time that I have left with the children, and he didn't care. This is something new, and it happened after all of his friends that I knew have disappeared. So no one knows Shalish Tana anymore that I knew. It's a very strange situation. Anybody that's commenting on his page, I don't know who they are. They're brand new people, not people that we knew together. None of them know him. They say they don't talk to him anymore because Shalish has done things to them and their families. Also, I also want to go back in the past. A red flag that I should have noticed when we were getting married and he told me that he loved me the first time. A friend of mine, as I was talking to her, brought it up, and she goes, "You remember when he loved you so much that he came to Venezuela and tried to come to the United States through Venezuela?" Well, that was a red flag right then and there that he was just seeking citizenship. She said, I remember that. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, my God, yeah, I have forgot all about that he tried to come to the United States by going through Venezuela shortly after he asked me to marry him, and it did not work. That should have been a big no-no. Should have let me know that he wasn't interested in me. It was the United States citizenship he was after. So now I'm going to go back now to my story. That was just some past history stuff. National Missing Exploited Children found us, and well, they hadn't found us yet. National Missing Exploited Children were looking for us. We were on the registry. I was watching his Facebook page, and he had said something to me that made me nervous. I'm going to get you once and for all. And I got this feeling in my stomach, and I just knew that something was wrong. I couldn't calm down. I knew that I was gonna be found, and I just knew that something wasn't right. All of their Facebooks had magically now been open after being blocked from me for a long time. His sister's Facebook page was now magically open. She refused to talk to me, and she actually told people that she did not know me. And so all of his family in India also said the same thing when people were trying to help me in India and going to them. They said they did not know me. I had been blocked out of their Facebooks, everybody's Facebook. All of a sudden, magically, their Facebooks was open, and he says, "I'm going to get you." So being very afraid, I paced and was scared and didn't know what to do. The children were living with me at the time, and so I walk up to Officer Derby. Officer Derby of Pittsfield, Massachusetts Police Department is the community officer. He's a great guy to the community. I don't know why he did what he did to me or what really happened with that, but he refuses to speak to me on it. But I walk up to Officer Derby, and I said, Officer Derby, this is going on. Now, Officer Derby knew me, and knew my children. We had talked multiple times. He thought my name was Nikki. He didn't know who I really was or what I was really going through. We would laugh and joke, and my kids would laugh and joke with him. So often, and actually Officer Derby, because my children were afraid of the police department because of the brutality that we experienced in Millbrook, I kept them around the officers in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Anytime the officers had any event, I made sure my kids were there. I made sure my kids engaged with the officers because I did not want them to think that every police is bad. And every police isn't bad. The police are not, every single solitary police officer is not bad. Yes, there are crooked cops in the bunch. Yes, there are crooked departments, but every officer isn't bad. So I wanted to make sure that my kids knew that the police aren't bad. They had it in their mind that the police were bad, and actually Vonnie was terrified of the police. And I did not want her growing up to being terrified of the police. I did not want her thinking that every police is bad. So I made sure that the police in Pittsfield were in contact with my children, pleasantly contacted my children, so my children knew that these officers in Millbrook, Alabama are bad, but every police is not bad. So I walk up to Officer Derby and I tell him my situation. And he goes back and looks, and he finds out that National Missing Exploited Children had been looking for me for a while, and that the police department was looking for me. But they had the wrong address. They didn't have my correct address. If I hadn't gave myself up, they probably would have never found me there. I probably would have been pretty safe, but I was scared. And so Officer Derby told me he was going to help me. And he injected himself into my family. He would pick up the kids from school. He talked to the children's school. The school said that the kids were safe in Massachusetts and that they all had my back. Officer Derby told me he was going to do everything he could. He told me he was going to write to the judge. Ray Gotchi at that time was involved with Child Protective Services. They did an in-depth interview or in-depth whatever they do and deemed that the children were definitely safe with me, that there was some type of domestic violence going on with Shailish Tana. National Missing and Exploited Children at that time, Romney, the counselor, and Heather also deemed that there was some abuse going on with Shailish Tana, that his story did not match my story, and it didn't sound right. They at that time said that it was a custody problem between me and Shailish Tana, and they recommend that I leave the house because they recommended that I leave my house because my confidential address was blown. There was definitely something wrong with the whole case. His name is Romney at National Missing Exploited Children. He put me in touch with their legal department at that time. He also was the one who told me to go grab the kids from school, and they told me to leave Pittsfield, Massachusetts. I did not leave Pittsfield, Massachusetts because Ray Gotchi of Child Protective Services and Officer Derby told me that the kids need a stable place, which they did, and we were doing great in Pittsfield. I was loving my life there, and did not want to uproot them, my children, and move them again from them doing so well. I was told by Ray Gotchi that him and Officer Derby were going to write to the judge, and they were going to help me take care of everything, and that I was safe with my community in Pittsfield. So thinking that I'm safe in my community with Pittsfield, me and my good friend, and we went out, and we got over 400 donated toys at Christmas time, because notice I was found in November. So at around Christmas time, we got donations of toys, over 400 toys on my own, and with the help of Officer Derby, we distributed these toys to the city of Pittsfield. I met Officer Derby's wife, and he was telling me that we were safe and everything was going to be okay. He told me to go in and get an order of protection, but when I went and got an order of protection, I didn't know this, but a friend of mine who works in the legal department told me to withdraw that order of protection, that was not safe, that was not a good idea. So I went in and I listened to his advice, and I went in and I withdrew the order of protection. I got paperwork. Thank God that I did, because at that time, when I went in for the order of protection was being filed, and my confidential address may have been blown, and Shailish's girlfriend, Angela Collins, is telling me she's going to kill me. She's going to take my kids, and she's going to sell them for sex, is what she told me before she got them. She also told me she was going to abuse my kids, and things that she was going to do, and it was very nasty. So I went for order of protection against her for the children and an order of protection for Shaylish against the children. At Officer Derby's request, or he told me, we can help you. You got to get an order of protection. So I go in, I file for order of protection. While I filed for the order of protection, a detective friend of mine from New York tells me to go and withdraw. I have some information. I'm not going to tell you what's really going on here. I really can't tell you. You run your mouth too much. And but you need to go and withdraw that order of protection. You're not safe. So I withdraw the order of protection, and I'll show the paperwork on my Facebook page, and also probably in comments of what happened there. But I withdraw the order of protection, and I don't know why or for what reason, but I'm going to follow this man's advice. Everything he's ever told me was always right. So I follow his advice, and I withdraw the order of protection. After I withdrew the order of protection, I went back to Officer Derby, and he told me that I shouldn't have done that, that the whole city was protecting me. The school has your back. I have your back. I know the judge. Ray Gacci also was telling me the same thing. I had contacted the Steve Wilco show and was supposed to go on the Steve Wilco show. They told me not to do that because you don't want to seem like an attention whore. You want the children to be safe, and we're working with you, right, Shireen? We're working with you to make the children safe. If you go on this show, you're going to seem like an attention whore, and you're going to ruin all of that. And so, trusting the Pittsfield Police Department, I had a Christmas party with them, and listening to Children's Services of Pittsfield, I then was called up by Officer Derby and told to go into the court. He told me that he had everything set up and that everything was going to be okay. I needed to go in and face this. And he had written to the judge, and Ray Gacci told me that he was going to recommend to the judge about my safety and recommend that the children stay with me in Pittsfield. Well, I go into the court like Officer Derby tells me to. And when I get into the courtroom, I'm in there for 5 minutes. The judge tells me that my word is not credible and to shut up. He would not let me enter any paperwork or proof. He then tells me to return the children to Shaylish Tana. And all I can say is, okay. I then asked the judge for a soft transfer. I asked for more time. He tells me, no, Monday morning you are to return the children here at 9-something a.m. to this courthouse and return the children. And I'm asking and I'm begging, and then I ask, Child Protective Services to say something. Ray Gacci's on the phone line. He refuses to say anything. He didn't say a word. He didn't say, like he said he was going to say to the judge, that he recommends that the children stay with me. He did not say anything to the fact that he believes that there is abuse with Shaylish Tana. They would not let me put any paperwork into that court. They wouldn't let me say anything at all. Right after the court, I get out of the courtroom, I grab the kids, and I leave. I figure out that I cannot return my children to abuse. This woman has told me what she was going to do with my children. I had never met Angela Collins in person. I've never seen her before. She tells me what she's going to do to my children in person. I mean, when she gets her hands on them. Shaylish Tana has hurled threats, and he has been abusive in the past. So I could not return the children. I did not return the children, and I called New York, and I called Child Protective Services, and I called some important people, and I tried to run back to New York for safety. I do not know. I'm still racking my brain why Officer Derby told me we were safe, told me he was going to do all of these things, and then didn't. I feel like he set me up. He told me he was my friend. We were working together to do stuff with the community. But he wasn't my friend. He did not stand up. He did not do the things that he said he was going to do, along with Ray Gacci of Children and Family Services. He told me to go into that courtroom. He told me I didn't need a lawyer because he had everything already set up and everything was going to be fine. Me and the children were going to be safe. He told me that he also would write the judge, that he had wrote to the judge. And but he didn't. He didn't do any of those things that he said he was going to do. And I trusted him. I put my trust in him. Had I believed that, had I not believed in what Officer Derby and Ray Gacci of Child Protective Services was telling me of my safety in Pittsfield, I would have left. I would have left and sought help. I would have not gone into the courtroom that day, but Officer Derby called me up and told me to go in to the courtroom that day. So I did. I followed the advice of an officer who I thought had my best interest and the best interest of my children at heart, who didn't. I want to say that was a setup. I don't know why he did this, and I think he was fully aware that there was already a writ of arrest issued with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to have me returned back to Alabama when I went for that order of protection. I didn't know at the time that that was going on. No one informed me, but my motherly intuition and a very good guided friend told me to withdraw at this time, and I did so. And thank God that I did, because I was already, even before occurring criminal charges of kidnapping, was already warranted back to the state of Alabama, where the police said they were going to kill me, and the divorce happened in fraud. I'm definitely afraid of Alabama. Even now, I'm afraid to go to Alabama. I am definitely afraid of the Millbrook, Alabama Police Department. When National Missing and Exploited Children had found me, and we were going through that, I called up the Alabama Police Department and I talked to Officer Reed. Officer Reed at that time told me he is the bad guy. This is recent. This is when National Missing and Exploited Children were involved. So he was letting me know that he is the bad guy and that they are still not going to help me, and that let me know that I am not safe in the state of Alabama, that the Millbrook Police Department has some bad blood or bad intuition against me. Well, that's that part of the story, and I will come back with what happened after I ran to New York to seek I was seeking safety. I had already called Child Protective Services in New York. They were going to take my children in New York with Child Protective Services and hold my children in Child Protective Services until we can get this straightened out, because they knew what I had went through from day one. They knew what I was going through, and they knew that this was absolutely wrong, and that there was definitely some abuse going on with Shayla's Tana and the children, and that the children would not be safe with Shayla's Tana. I'm going to cut this video here, and I'll pick up on the next video of what happened after I ran.